Magandang hapon muli. Pag-usapan naman natin ang issue tungkol sa recent decision ng Korte sa issue ng Ferguson. Kasama natin ngayong hapon si Dr. deGuzman. Dr. John Paul deGuzman, or si Doc JP, is a postdoctoral scholar at the University of California Center for New Racial Studies. His research focuses on the relationship between race, political activism, and urban history. He recently received his PhD in History and MA in Asian American Studies from UCLA. Magandang hapon. Hello, JP. Thanks again for accommodating us. How are you?
Lama, thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good. When this issue was unfolded quite recently, I knew that I had to talk to you. Let's get started right away. Tell us, for the audience or the viewers that don't know what's happening, what is this Ferguson case all about?
Well, in a nutshell, objectively, what happened was recently in Ferguson, Missouri, an 18-year-old African-American man was killed by a white police officer, Darren Wilson. Last night, a grand jury released its decision not to pursue criminal charges against Officer Wilson. He did not receive an indictment.
Tell me, how do you personally feel about the recent decision?
Personally, I feel very angry, very frustrated, and very, very disappointed in our criminal justice system. It harks back to recent cases such as the case of George Zimmerman, who went free after killing Trayvon Martin in Florida.
Well, you're not the only one angry. A lot of people are rallying, going into the streets peacefully, but still they are out there. They're trying to make their voices heard. Tell us, JP, how does this affect our society here in America in general?
I think that this is a really critical moment to think seriously about what we call the intersections of race, of policing, of law, and it makes us think to ourselves about how we look at law in society, because we like to tell ourselves that we are a country of laws, we are a nation of laws. But these instances make us ask the question, who do the laws actually protect? What lives are protected and which lives are not protected under the types of laws that we have?
Specifically to our Filipino community, I remember the last time that you were here, we had spoken about racism and that it does continue to persist until today. How does this Ferguson case affect our Filipino community at large?
I think that many Filipino-Americans might think that this has absolutely nothing to do with us, but as a historian, I like to think across many generations, and we can look at a long history of relationships between blacks and Filipinos, going back to the Filipino-American War, when a black soldier named David Fagan actually broke away from the United States to help support the Filipinos. Later, Filipino-Americans, Filipino immigrants were often seen as the same as African Americans in the eyes of whites. And even today, there's a rich cultural exchange between Filipino-American youth and music and hip-hop and whatnot and African Americans. But with that, we need to take that responsibility to really understand the issues that are affecting our African American sisters and brothers and stand in solidarity with them.
So how do you propose that we can be socially conscious members of society moving forward in obviously a very peaceful manner?
Absolutely. Well, you know, oftentimes in these moments, these flashpoints, I always think to the words that a famous activist named Yuri Kochiyama once said, which is basically knowledge is power. So we live in an incredible age where we can look at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and immediately be connected to what's going on in Ferguson. So I would ask all of us to just stay informed, read the news, see what's going on, and again, ask ourselves those questions about how does this shape our life, and how can we learn, how can we try to make effort to create a more just society?
JP, how would you suggest that our Filipino family discuss these issues within our community as well?
Absolutely. You know, I think that there has been tensions between Asian Americans and African Americans. We cannot ignore that, nor should we. But we want to ask ourselves questions such as, do we as Filipinos, how do we benefit from the type of anti-Black racism that exists in this country? That might be kind of a big question to start off with. So we can ask ourselves questions like, what type of racism, what type of discrimination, what type of prejudice do we face as Filipinos? And then we can start to begin to think about, well, how does that type of hatred, that racism, mirror what happens to African Americans? And we can start to look at our shared histories and our shared struggles.
Lastly, how can we help this movement?
There are many, many ways, and many people come at this from a variety of different levels of awareness. So I think for the people watching today, again, the main thing is to keep a very open mind and to read up. And don't be afraid to talk to the people around you. Ask what their opinions are and see how that feels in relation to the experiences that we have all had.
All right.
I think, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much, JP. Thank you very much. Like he said, knowledge is power. Talk to your family members, your community. Ask them what they think about this topic. We'll be right back here on Kababayan Today. Maraming salamat, JP deGuzman.